Hello, Country Changers. Welcome to another Country Change webinar. I am joined by Colin and Izzy from Gundagai today. Colin's trying to sneak off the screen, but we'll bring him back in. But thank you for joining us, guys. You guys are formerly from Sydney. Tell me about your move to Gundagai and how did it happen?
Well, it was, about 4 years ago? Actually, it was quite a few years before then. Early 2000s, we had bought a small block of land in South Gundagai, lovely views, and we built a huge shed. So we keep Colin's tools and all our books and artwork there. And we found ourselves coming down to Gundagai, once a month and once every 2 weeks and then once a week, even though it's 400 kilometres away. It's very, very easy via the Hume Highway, absolutely non-stop, 110 kilometres per hour from the CBD of Sydney down the Hume Highway to Gundagai, and it was very easy. And then we saw this little dump of a place about 3 or 4 years ago. We thought, we'll buy this and renovate it. And then COVID came and my job was gone. I was a tourism officer and I was meant to meet cruise ships and when they wanted me to meet the Ruby Princess, I thought, I think it's about time we get out of here. And Colin, what happened with your
much
work?
The same with all the lockdowns in Sydney. Of course, you couldn't go to the office, and the sort of work that I do can easily be done from home or anywhere actually, mobile in a remote. So there's no need to go into the office. The lockdown was dragging on, and we just sort of both looked at each other and said, "That's it. We've got to get out of Sydney. Just that's it. This is not going away anytime soon. This could be 2 years easily." That was my guess at the time, and I'm being proved correct.
It was a Green Acres moment. I was like Zsa Zsa Gabor. I adore a penthouse view. We had a harbour view. We had Hyde Park view, Central Park view. We're right in the middle of the CBD, way up high. And we'd been there for 25 years.
And just to draw reference to your view, that painting behind you was taken by you.
That's right, of Manly and the Heads and all that. That was taken from our apartment. It's actually a photo, but done as a painting. And we had a great lifestyle there. But then we thought, well, COVID's coming. We managed to sell it just in the nick of time to people who actually already lived in the building, which was the funny thing. We could have saved thousands if we didn't go through real estate agents. And we came down here and we just love the place.
So for people who aren't familiar where Gundagai is, it's actually part of the LGA of Cootamundra-Gundagai. It's an amalgamated council. Cootamundra and Gundagai, even though they're part of the same LGA, they're quite a distance away, and
they're 55 kilometres away, and really, I mean, they're both iconic towns, and they're iconic towns. Cootamundra with its wattle, Dob Bradman, and all that, and Gundagai with the dog and the tucker box. But we are 55 kilometres away. But we've been forced into this marriage. It's okay, most of the people of Gundagai would rather be independent, but we don't have terribly much to do with Cootamundra. We're actually much closer. We go to Wagga, which is only 1 hour away. Canberra for the big things. IKEA is 2 hours away. And we love the snow at Mount Selwyn, even though Mount Selwyn's being done up. But we just love one of the great drives of Australia, the Snowy Mountains Highway between Tumut and Cooma. It's a beautiful, beautiful drive. And we must do that about once a week because it's just so beautiful. I'm a part-time photographer. I love taking photos of the Snowy Mountains, winter and summer and spring. It's just gorgeous.
Yeah, look, I mean, I said this to you when we caught up yesterday. I love the Riverina for its diversity, and you are literally on the doorstep of so many amazing, iconic landmarks that you take it for granted, I think, sometimes.
Exactly. Well, we've got the mighty Murrumbidgee River, and we've been really enjoying going to the different dams, Burrinjuck and Blowering, and just seeing the spillways going over. There's so much water. Of course, Gundagai is famous for its famous floods in the past, but I don't think it's going to flood that much. Besides, we're up on a hill, so we're okay.
You're safe.
But yeah, people downriver, Wagga and I think even Deniliquin and Hay, they might be getting flooding soon because our dams are just overflowing.
Yeah, look, I think it's living in regional areas, you're always facing some kind of interesting challenge, but I think the whole world at the moment is facing a challenge in many respects.
Very
In
true.
terms of your shift, I mean, going from those beautiful views of North Head in Manly to, you know, Gundagai in a renovated Queenslander by the looks of it.
Something like it, yes. It
Like
is. It was a fibro house. We've clad it now, and we've put. The other thing is we wanted solar power, so we've got 40 solar panels facing east, west, and north, and that captures everything. We've got 2 big Tesla batteries, the Powerwall 2s, and we're way out in front in terms of electricity bill. In fact, we got $700 odd back a few months ago because we're producing so much power, and we can heat and cool and do everything at the house. And the other great thing is with the batteries is, of course, the few times the rest of the town's got a blackout, well, all our lights are blaring. They could all come over and charge their phones and everything from us because a blackout doesn't affect us. So.
Oh, that's a benefit of solar I've never actually thought about. There's a market.
And we do have an electric plug-in hybrid car, so it's great being able to plug the old Mitsubishi in and go around and knowing we didn't use any fossil fuel. So
very, very environmentally sustainable. Well done.
Yeah.
What are the main differences that you've noticed between your lifestyles of living in the CBD of Sydney, even before lockdown, versus the lifestyle you have now?
Gosh, we've got so much more time. Obviously, seeing I don't work anymore, I've got more time for my photography, for my books and things. But unfortunately, it's meant we've put on a few extra kilos. I'm going to say it's because it's winter, but you know,
the winter.
Rambling.
Yeah. What were you saying?
Izzy's rambling. We're not talking about how fat we've become. What we're talking about.
Well, I've got to talk about the negatives.
No. Well, the positives are clear. You step out your front door. First, it's private. We're not going down 45 stories in a crowded lift and then out onto Park Street with a bus stop and 50 people lined up trying to get to work or something. You know, you've got open blue skies. When it is blue, it's a little bit grey today. Lovely country views around. You've got streets which are almost 30 metres wide. You could shoot a cannon down them. You wouldn't hit anybody. The houses are 10 to 12 metres apart. They're all on good sized blocks.
But we do get to know all our neighbours. We know everybody in the street, and everyone's just so nice and charming, you know. We know their names. They all wave to us. We wave back. We don't know who they are, but we just keep waving to the cars that wave to us. You know? Whereas in an apartment, when we first moved in 25 years ago, we knew a lot of people in the other buildings were big, because we had so many students and people from overseas. We'd try and say hello and all that, but you know, they weren't there very long. It was very towards the end. It was a very temporary community living in the city. And I don't know what it'd be like now in COVID times, but it's a real sense of community here. And we've joined the local historical museum. We do a lot of work there, which is good. I really enjoy that.
Colin, you brought your job with you. Just tell me a little bit about that, because during COVID, we've seen absolute huge spikes in relocators who were moving to remote working, and their jobs enabled them to do that. How have you found that?
Oh, totally fine. And that's all NBN connection almost to the door. In fact, it's very fast. It's reliable. There's no problem with connections there. In terms of it's like everybody. It's Zoom meetings with my colleagues back in Sydney. It's handy. We do have some country clients. I can hop in the car and see them, assuming there's no lockdown rules, of course. and it's just all by email, Zoom, and all the rest of it. So really, and telephone, it's absolutely fine. I don't have a problem with it. The work I'm doing, it's commercial insurance, and also I'm a registered adjudicator. So if there's a building dispute, a subcontract hasn't been paid by a builder or developer, for example, there is a set legal process they can adopt to compel them to have the dispute or reason for non-payment decided. I write up a judgment just like a magistrate would, and they basically have to pay, or it then gets registered at court as a court judgment and can be enforced like any court judgment. So,
and he doesn't have to travel there.
No, I don't. In fact, it's you're not meant to speak to the participants. You're not meant to visit the site. You're meant to be just totally, utterly impartial and just sit there and look only at the facts and the material, assess it independently, and make a decision, write up your judgment. You've only got 10 days to do it too, so it's a lot quicker than a court and a lot cheaper. It's that way, when a subby could get paid, have the whole process settled and paid in less than 30 days, whereas a court could take 4 months to 18 months to decide it. So
yeah, okay,
that's the idea. So yeah.
Yeah, so your job, you've been one of those lucky ones that literally have been able to pick up and just relocate and had sort of no difference in your workflow, which is great. I think so many people are experiencing that. What did you have any preconceived ideas or misconceptions of what a move to a small country town would be like, and how have they lived up or been smashed for you?
Well, I'll speak first, and then Izzy can say his part. For me, not really, because I've always been sort of a bit country and a bit city. I've never been totally city. I've finished my school in the Southern Highlands, for example. We've had family, friends, and a long family history of country properties in past generations and things like that. So I'm not a complete stranger to the country and its diversity and its different sort of cultures. But I tell you now, Gundagai is a very surprisingly progressive town. The people are very open-minded, very welcoming, extremely welcoming. The old idea is, oh, you know, they won't even talk to you unless you've been here 3 generations or something like that. Yeah, that's just a complete nonsense in Gundagai. There might be a tiny little 5% rump of them that might think like that, but honestly, you know, the vast majority of people are incredibly progressive and welcoming. I think. I just think that old sort of stereotype is probably in the minority throughout our whole country now, probably. I think, you know, Australia's changed.
People have actually welcomed us. They're thinking, we're going to be the only gays in the village, and then people coming. I know the real estate agents are thinking, oh, the gays are coming. So the prices are going to go up, and they're going to be redecorating everything. And we're definitely not the only gays in the village.
No.
It's amazing how many other people come out and also.
I thought we'd be minor celebrities, but no.
You're disappointed.
No.
We inspired one gay wedding down here, which was good. So, yeah.
Nice. And one thing we didn't sort of talk about earlier. Oh, sorry. Did you have anything to add to that, Cole?
No, there's not much really. Lifestyle. I mean, the shops are just as close to us. I can walk down to the shops. It's Gundagai. All the shops along one street, Sheridan Street, and get most of our stuff. We've even got a new hardware store. Colin goes to virtually every day. But no, everything's fine. The only thing we do miss is a genuine ocean beach. But hey, you know, the south coast isn't that far away. Going to the Snowy Mountains, it's pretty good.
Yeah. So you've got, from memory, you'd have Wollongong about 3 hours away.
Wollongong, well, probably further south. I mean, we'd go more towards Jarvis Bay if you went through Canberra. That would be the easiest way.
Maria, places like that.
Yeah, we could go further south. Certainly wouldn't consider. Wollongong would be okay, but even so, even the Sydney beaches, they're only 4 hours away by freeway. So
yeah, and look, one thing, I grew up in the country, so traveling 60 kilometres or 100 kilometres is nothing, because you know exactly how long it's going to take you.
Exactly.
you could only be going 2 kilometers or 7 kilometers down the road, and the times differ every day.
Well, we've never had any traffic jams anywhere here, so.
Unless it's sheep.
Yes, we have encountered that a couple of times. That's really, really nice. Or cattle, yes, sheep or cattle. But even then, that's always a joy to be surrounded by all these sheep and cows, you know. And that's the other thing. We've got a place down here where the old bridges are. We call it Gundagai Common. And we go down there for walks most days. It's a big open flat area next to the Murrumbidgee. And there are dozens and dozens of wonderful, lovely cows that just come up and say hello. Cows and bulls, and they're just so sweet, little calves and things. And people just walk amongst them freely. And it's just a really nice little touch of nature there.
Yeah. Look, and I think it's such a beautiful way to ground yourself, having that time and just being connected to nature so much more in those kinds of environments.
And the bird life. Love seeing all the birds here. So many different types of birds. Kookaburras, cockatoos, galahs, corellas, magpies, currawong. I could name them all, you know.
You'll have to join a Twitchers Society.
Yes.
What do you think, how do you think it's impacted your mental health? Because obviously right now during COVID and so many lockdowns happening across the nation, do you think, even take the COVID equation out, do you think your mental health has been improved by being out of that sort of CBD hustle?
Definitely for me, because I was getting, look, I am a bit of an extrovert, but also at times an introvert. But sometimes, you know, getting into the lift of the building and there'd be all these people in the lift, even if it wasn't COVID, that would sort of, maybe I was a bit claustrophobic. And well, here I've got wide open spaces. I think that's it. I am a bit claustrophobic. Yeah, my headspace is much better here. Even though my waistline isn't, my headspace is much better.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I think humanity declines in direct proportion to population density. So the higher the population density, the more you have to compete for resources, and the more you end up, well, not exactly hating your fellow man, but certainly having to almost elbow them out of the way to do what you got to do in the city. And here it's just absolutely marvellous. There's no issue with any of that. You've just got so much space. You can deal with people one-on-one. So mental health, I can't confess to having any significant issues before, but yes, if we were still in that apartment, yeah, I'd be climbing the walls. There's no question. We didn't have a balcony, so I mean, you couldn't even stick your head out. So if we were literally under a stay-at-home order or something, it'd be terrible. Whereas here, you know, I'm 650 square meters with a, you know, decent sized house. I got a big man cave garage to do projects in. I can do all this sort of stuff. You know, it's just fantastic and marvelous, and such a great change.
And imagine having children in an apartment. That would be really hard.
Oh, yes. Yeah, we've known people like that. No, honestly, it's stressful for them. Yeah.
Now, one thing we haven't talked about is, or we glossed over it a little bit at the beginning, which I think is a really important aspect of your story. You purchased a property way back in 2012, was it?
3, I think. No, 2003 we bought the block of land in South Gundagai, and we progressively got to know the place better and better. And then we
bought this house 4 years ago, and we're slowly doing it up and using it as a weekender while we're still in Sydney. But it's funny, almost subconsciously, it's as if we had in the back of our mind, just in case something happened with Sydney, you know, with work or generally, we've got this in our back pocket, you know. And totally true. COVID came along, and it didn't take us long to say, right, that's it, we're out of there and into the house here. But the beauty of it is, it was at least 80% renovated by the time we made the move, because we've been doing it for 2.5 years prior to that.
It was a no-brainer, really, sort of coming down.
Very simple decision.
All our work colleagues, both mine and Colin's, kept saying, you're so lucky to have a place in the country. And yeah, we just sort of...
Well, without boasting, we actually have several properties, which I won't go into the details of in a public sense, but that's just part of the way we rearranged our finances. Instead of having so much money tied up, so many eggs just in one basket. The eggs are now in several baskets, which makes a lot.
Well, obviously,
better for us.
we got rid of the mortgage in the city, and we bought not only this place, or paid off this place, but we also bought another investment property just a couple of streets away, and it just provides us with rental income. So it was dirt cheap back then, but it's probably doubled in price now since COVID. So
I mean, and that's the thing. What you could get for $150,000 a few years ago has dramatically increased. So I don't want to anyone who is considering a country change, comparative to Sydney and Melbourne, you're still going to get a great bargain. However, just sort of expect that prices have moved because there is so much demand for it at the moment.
That's right. Yes. We did our census last night, and we're quite happy to say, firstly, that yes, we're finally married, and secondly, compared to the last one in 2016, and yes, we actually live in the country. We had moved from Sydney to the country, so it'd be interesting this time next year to see all the census figures come out and see how much the population's changed and moved about.
I don't know if you wanted to get on the topic of sort of like work-life balance, but depending on people's time of life and their income requirements, they might have school-age kids, for example, and of course that's an issue they've got to deal with moving to the country. Is the school any good? Will they have jobs? All that sort of thing. For us, it's a lot simpler. No kids, and we're semi-retired. So the point is, the smart thing for us to do was use the money from the city, buy property with no debt. We have absolutely zero debt, no debt whatsoever. And if you're in that situation, you're not paying rent, you're not paying mortgages, you don't have credit cards, your income requirement is absolutely stripped down to just so little. You can live on 30 grand a year comfortably. It's a joke. Whereas if you're living in the city, you've got a mortgage or something, you're certainly well into the six figures or something before you could even blink. So it's a lot simpler. So for us, the idea of, okay, move to the country, but what work will you have? Will it pay? Well, that's out. We don't have to worry about that. That's
a friend of ours who works with the museum with us. He lived in Western Sydney, just a very small apartment, flat, and he had his nephew who's living with him, and he suddenly just decided, I think maybe just a year ago or 2 years ago, to up and leave Western Sydney in the Fairfield region, and he bought a beautiful big old Victorian house here, beautiful views, and still had money left over, and he just loves the lifestyle here. He's got some medical issues, the doctors, and that's the other thing, they've got a great medical centre here. The doctors just down the road, and a great brand new hospital
here as well.
And he loves it here. He wouldn't want to go back at all. And his nephew is really taken well to the community. He really fits in much better here than he did in southwestern Sydney. So
yeah, that's nice to hear. So any final words of advice for anyone considering a country change to Gundagai, Cootamundra area?
Well, just if you can, just live there for a short time. Just see if you can rent a place for 3 or 6 months to see if the town suits you and you suit the town. Look at the services. Certainly, if you're getting a bit older, if you need medical stuff, look at the services. What's the local doctors like? I know some country towns, they really don't have enough doctors. So that's a real, that can be a bit of a worry for someone like me who's type 1 diabetic. But I find I've got better services here, and I see a really good ophthalmologist in Wagga, who's easier to see and get to than the one I had in Macquarie Street, and a bit cheaper too.
Cheaper. He's got to get injections for his eyes or laser treatment because of diabetic photoretinopathy. The point is, it's $1,000 a session in Sydney, $400 in Wagga. Give me a break. $400. And after Medicare, it's like $140, which is totally fine.
For the exact same service.
Yeah, it's exactly the same. So, because Macquarie Street, Sydney, it's like Harley Street, London. The cost.
And just before I had to see him, the nurse rang me and said, "Are you right to come in?" And I said, "Actually, I've got a bit of a cough." And she said, "Right, get yourself tested." I thought, "Oh God, I'm going to have to have one of those brain nasal swabs." I wasn't looking forward to it, but there was just a place just down on the highway here. Lovely young doctor, gave me a nasal swab. Next day, I got results, which was negative, which is great. And that was so easy. I didn't have to line up or anything. So it's good.
Yeah, awesome. Any last words of advice from you, Colin?
Well, look, we won't lie. This part of the world is a little bit cold in winter. Let's be perfectly clear about that. You'll go down to -2 in the morning, which is not a big deal. Some days can be 7 to 10 degrees in the middle of winter, and it can be a bit grey and wet, although it's a very wet year this year, so you can't really judge it by that. Summers are dry and hot, mid-30s to low 40s sometimes, but usually very sunny. So provided you're okay with that sort of the swings of the climate in that sense, but spring and autumn, of course, gorgeous.
You really notice the scenery, and in fact, one thing, we've really planted the garden. We've really started to learn about gardens. We've got peaches, plums, blueberries,
all the citruses,
lemons, citruses.
Just on the climate, just quickly for anyone coming here, it is lovely. Cootamundra's lovely. You got the railway and all that sort of stuff. But we've got the highway, and the point is, Gundagai is surrounded by beautiful rolling hills, and you don't get wind. There's virtually no wind ever in Gundagai. You get a light breeze, and that's it. So a lot of places, for example, like Goulburn, Canberra, in winter are miserable, utterly miserable. Because the chill factor of the wind, you can take 10 degrees off.
People of Goulburn are going to hate you.
I don't care. I think it's fact.
That's right.
Gundagai
Not in the Riverina, so we can bag them.
Yes.
Gundagai is sheltered and relatively mild. So there we are. And it's close to the snow too, if you like the snow.
Yeah. It's close to everything, but far apart to be sort of safe and all. So it's good.
And that's the thing. You've got those 4 distinct seasons. So as long as you're prepared, you've got your fires, and plug up and enjoy the woolly fires and drinking red wine. And then in the summer, get out and explore and take photos in your.
I've been baking and cooking so much here too, which is good in some ways. I just need an exercise bike.
That definite theme in this conversation. Well, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your experience about your move to Gundagai, and we hope to hear more about your journey along the way. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Laticia. Thank you.